In the heart of an opulent royal palace, towering spires pierced through swirling lavender clouds on a distant alien planet. The air shimmered with hues of gold and violet as sunlight filtered through crystalline domes that adorned the vast structure. Within its walls, echoes of laughter and intrigue danced like whispers among the stars. At the center of this celestial kingdom stood Valithra, the Empress of Zytherion, a being whose beauty transcended mortal comprehension. Her skin glowed faintly with an ethereal luminescence, her eyes shifting between shades of sapphire and amethyst depending on her mood. She wore robes woven from threads spun by cosmic spiders, shimmering with constellations that seemed alive against the fabric. To see her was to feel both wonder and awe, yet beneath her regal exterior lay a soul yearning for connection. Opposite her sat Eric, a human traveler who had stumbled upon Zytherion after his ship malfunctioned during a routine exploration mission. With unruly dark hair perpetually tousled, piercing green eyes, and a smile that could disarm even the most stoic guards, Eric carried himself with a mix of charm and humility. His presence in the palace was unexpected but not unwelcome. His quick wit and unyielding curiosity intrigued those around him, including the Empress herself. Eric's arrival had sparked rumors throughout the court. Some whispered he was a spy sent by rival factions, while others believed him to be a harbinger of change. Regardless of the speculation, one thing was certain. He possessed a charisma that drew people in, whether they sought to understand him or simply bask in his energy. As fate would have it, their paths crossed under peculiar circumstances. While wandering the labyrinthine halls of the palace, Eric found himself face-to-face with Valithra as she inspected ancient artifacts brought back from far-flung corners of the galaxy. Their initial meeting was marked by awkwardness. He accidentally knocked over a delicate vase, shattering centuries of history into glittering shards at her feet. Instead of anger, however, Valithra laughed, her melodic voice filling the chamber like a song. It was then that their unlikely bond began to form. Now, seated together in the grand hall overlooking the sprawling city below, their banter flowed effortlessly. "You know," Eric said with a playful grin, leaning back in his ornate chair, "you should really be careful you're falling for me." He punctuated the remark with a wink, clearly enjoying the moment. Valithra raised an elegant eyebrow, her lips curving into a smirk. "Too late," she replied smoothly, her tone carrying just enough sincerity to make Eric pause. "I'm already in love with you." The words hung in the air, light yet heavy with meaning. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Eric burst out laughing, shaking his head. "Well, I didn't think my jokes were that good." Her laughter joined his, though there was something deeper in her gaze that lingered long after the humor faded. And so, amidst the splendor of the royal palace, two souls from vastly different worlds embarked on a journey neither could have anticipated. Days turned into weeks, and Eric became a fixture within the palace, much to the fascination and occasional irritation of the royal court. Nobles whispered behind gilded fans about the strange human who dared to walk among them, while servants exchanged knowing glances whenever he passed, his boots scuffing the polished floors. Despite their reservations, no one could deny the spark he brought to the otherwise rigid routines of palace life. One afternoon, Valithra invited Eric to join her in the royal gardens, a sprawling expanse of bioluminescent flora and cascading waterfalls suspended midair by advanced gravity manipulation. As they strolled along winding pathways lined with glowing blossoms, she asked, "Do you ever miss your home?" Eric hesitated, running a hand through his hair. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But honestly, this place feels more alive than anywhere I've ever been. Everything here pulses with energy, like the universe itself is breathing." He glanced at her, adding with a teasing grin, "Though I suppose having such excellent company doesn't hurt either." Valithra chuckled softly, though her expression grew thoughtful. "It must be strange for you, being so far from everything familiar. Do you regret coming here?" "Not for a second," he replied without hesitation. "Sure, landing here wasn't exactly planned, but if I hadn't crashed onto your doorstep, I'd never have met you or seen all this." He gestured to the breathtaking scenery around them. "Besides, who wouldn't want to hang out with an empress who laughs when you break priceless antiques?" She shot him a mock-stern look, though her amusement was evident. "That incident will cost you dearly someday, mark my words." Their conversation shifted seamlessly from light-hearted jests to deeper topics, touching on the responsibilities of leadership, the mysteries of the cosmos, and the fleeting nature of time. By the end of their walk, they had reached a secluded pavilion where twin moons bathed the space in silvery light. There, they sat side by side, their shoulders brushing lightly as they gazed up at the night sky. Unbeknownst to them, their growing closeness had not gone unnoticed. In the shadows of the palace corridors, Lord Saren, a high-ranking advisor to the Empress, observed their interactions with growing unease. A tall, angular figure clad in robes of deep crimson, Saren prided himself on his loyalty to the crown, but also on his ambition. He viewed Eric as a disruption, an outsider who threatened the delicate balance of power within the empire. "He grows bolder by the day," Saren muttered to Captain Lysara, commander of the Royal Guard. They stood in a dimly lit antechamber, their voices low to avoid detection. "If we don't act soon, he'll undermine everything we've worked for." Lysara, a formidable warrior with silver-plated armor and sharp violet eyes, frowned. "What do you propose? Arrest him? Exile him?" "The Empress won't take kindly to either option." Saren's lips curled into a sly smile. "No need for anything so overt. We simply need to remind her of her duties, to her people, to her throne. A distraction like this could destabilize the entire empire." Lysara crossed her arms, skepticism evident in her stance. "And what makes you think she'll listen? You've seen how she looks at him." For a moment, frustration flickered across Saren's face before he masked it with calm resolve. "Then perhaps we need to give her no choice." Meanwhile, trouble brewed beyond the palace walls. Reports began flooding in from the outer colonies. Strange disturbances in the energy grids, sudden disappearances of key officials, and whispers of rebellion stirring among the populace. At first, these incidents seemed isolated, easily dismissed as minor inconveniences. But as the frequency increased, it became clear that something far more sinister was at play. Vaelithra called an emergency council meeting, gathering her advisors and military leaders in the Grand Chamber. Holographic displays hovered above the circular table, projecting maps of affected regions alongside data streams detailing the anomalies. The atmosphere was tense, charged with urgency. "We cannot ignore this any longer," Vaelithra declared, her voice firm despite the weight of the situation. "Whatever force is behind these attacks seeks to weaken us from within. We must act swiftly." Most of the advisors nodded in agreement, offering strategies and suggestions. Yet Saren remained silent, his calculating gaze fixed on Eric, who had been permitted to attend the meeting. When the discussion turned to potential threats, Saren finally spoke. "There may be another factor to consider," he said smoothly, standing to address the room. All eyes turned to him, including Vaelithra's. "Our esteemed guest has access to sensitive information about our defenses and resources. Is it possible he has ties to these insurgents?" Eric stiffened, caught off guard by the accusation. "Excuse me?" he said, his tone sharp. "I've done nothing but help since I got here. Why would I sabotage the very people who took me in?" "Perhaps because your kind has always sought to exploit ours," Saren countered, his words dripping with venom. "History shows humans are not to be trusted." Before Eric could respond, Vaelithra intervened, her voice cutting through the rising tension. "Enough. Eric is under my protection, and I vouch for his integrity. If anyone here doubts my judgment, they may leave now." The room fell silent, the challenge hanging heavy in the air. Slowly, Saren inclined his head, though his expression betrayed simmering resentment. "As you wish, Your Majesty. But remember, trust misplaced can lead to ruin." After the meeting adjourned, Eric approached Vaelithra privately. "Why are you defending me like that? I appreciate it, but isn't it risky?" Her gaze softened as she placed a hand on his shoulder. "Because I believe in you, and because—" She hesitated, searching for the right words. "Because I refuse to let fear dictate my decisions." Eric opened his mouth to reply, but before he could speak, alarms blared throughout the palace. Red lights flashed, signaling an imminent threat. Together, they rushed to the command center, where chaos reigned as reports poured in of an assault on the capital city. Through the chaos, Eric felt a surge of determination. Whatever dangers lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain. He wouldn't stand idly by while the woman he cared for faced them alone. The attack on the capital city unfolded with terrifying speed. Ships cloaked in shadow descended from the sky, unleashing beams of destructive energy that tore through buildings and sent plumes of smoke billowing into the air. The once vibrant streets were now a battleground, filled with the cries of civilians and the relentless hum of alien weaponry. Inside the palace command center, Velithra stood tall, her regal composure masking the storm of emotions within. She barked orders to her advisors and military leaders, coordinating defenses while strategizing counterattacks. Eric, despite his lack of formal training, refused to stay behind. He insisted on helping however he could, whether it was relaying messages, organizing supplies for the injured, or simply being there as moral support. As chaos erupted around them, moments of quiet intimacy emerged between Velithra and Eric during brief lulls in the crisis. In one such moment, they found themselves alone in a secluded corner of the war room. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the holographic display before her, but when she turned to face him, her expression softened. "I shouldn't have let you get involved in this," she said quietly, guilt etched across her features. "This is my responsibility, not yours." Eric stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on her arm. "Hey, I made the choice to help. You didn't force me into anything. Besides," he hesitated, then added with a wry smile, "what kind of guy would I be if I ran away when things got tough?" Velithra's lips curved upward faintly, though her eyes remained troubled. "You're impossible, you know that? That's why you love me," he teased gently, earning a soft laugh from her. But beneath the humor lay unspoken truths. Feelings neither had fully acknowledged yet but were undeniable nonetheless. Hours stretched into days as the conflict raged on. The invaders proved relentless, their technology advanced and their motives unclear. Rumors spread among the Zytherian forces that these attackers weren't mere rebels but agents of a rival empire seeking to overthrow Velithra's rule. If true, the stakes were higher than anyone had anticipated. Amidst the turmoil, Lord Saren saw an opportunity to further his agenda. Under the guise of protecting the Empress, he orchestrated a plan to isolate her from Eric, believing their bond was a vulnerability that could be exploited. One evening, under the pretense of discussing strategy, Saren approached Velithra in private. "Your Majesty," he began, bowing low but failing to conceal the tension in his voice. "I must speak plainly. The human has become a distraction, a liability we cannot afford. His presence undermines your authority and compromises our efforts." Velithra's gaze hardened. "You overstep, Saren. Eric has proven himself invaluable. But at what cost?" Saren pressed, leaning forward. "Every moment you spend with him weakens your focus. Your people need you wholeheartedly, not divided between duty and affection." Her jaw tightened, anger simmering just below the surface. "Enough. My personal life is none of your concern. Focus on aiding our troops, or step aside." Saren bowed again, retreating with a forced smile, but the seeds of doubt had been planted. That night, Velithra retreated to her chambers, her mind racing. For all her strength and resolve, she couldn't shake the question nagging at her. Was Saren right? Was her connection with Eric clouding her judgment? Meanwhile, Eric sensed the shift in her demeanor. When they next met, he noticed how distant she seemed, her usual warmth replaced by a guarded formality. Concerned, he confronted her after a tense briefing session. "What's going on, Velithra?" he asked, his tone gentle but firm. "You've been avoiding me since yesterday. Did something happen?" She hesitated, torn between honesty and self-preservation. Finally, she sighed, sinking onto a nearby bench. "It's complicated. People are questioning my decisions, questioning us. They think I'm letting emotions interfere with my responsibilities." Eric knelt beside her, taking her hands in his. "So what? Let them talk. You're allowed to feel, to care about someone. It doesn't make you any less of a leader." "It does if it endangers my people," she countered sharply, pulling away. "If I lose sight of what truly matters, everyone suffers, including you." Her words stung, but Eric refused to back down. "Then prove them wrong. Show them that loving someone makes you stronger, not weaker. Don't let fear dictate who you are." For a long moment, they stared at each other, the weight of their shared history hanging between them. Then Velithra reached out, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "You always know exactly what to say to complicate things further," she murmured half-jokingly. "That's my specialty," he replied, his grin returning. "But seriously, you don't have to do this alone. Let me stand with you." Before she could respond, an urgent summons interrupted their conversation. A scout had reported a massive enemy fleet approaching the palace itself. With no time to dwell on personal matters, they rushed to prepare for the impending assault. The battle for the palace was unlike anything Eric had ever imagined. Explosions rocked the ground beneath their feet as laser fire lit up the night sky. Despite the overwhelming odds, Velathra led her forces with unwavering determination, inspiring those around her to fight with every ounce of strength they possessed. In the heat of combat, Eric found himself separated from Velathra during a chaotic retreat. As he navigated the crumbling corridors of the palace, dodging falling debris and enemy soldiers, he stumbled upon a hidden chamber. Inside, he discovered a shocking revelation. Documents detailing secret negotiations between Saren and the invading empire. Betrayal. Fury surged through him as he realized the extent of Saren's treachery. Clutching the evidence, Eric fought his way back to Velathra, determined to expose the truth. When he finally reached her, bloodied and exhausted, she barely recognized him at first glance. "Eric!" she gasped, rushing to his side. "What happened to you?" He held up the documents, his voice trembling with rage. "Saren, he's been working with them all along. He sold us out." Shock rippled across her face, followed by a cold fury that matched his own. Together, they devised a risky plan to confront Saren and turn the tide of the battle. Armed with newfound resolve and a deepening trust in each other, they prepared to face the greatest challenge of their lives. Yet even as hope flickered anew, shadows loomed on the horizon. The invaders' leader, a mysterious figure shrouded in darkness, revealed a devastating secret about Eric's past. One that threatened to unravel everything he thought he knew about himself. And Velathra faced a choice that would test the limits of her loyalty and love. The revelation came in the midst of chaos, delivered by the invaders' enigmatic leader, a figure cloaked in a swirling black veil that seemed to absorb light itself. The battlefield had temporarily stilled as both sides regrouped, and it was then that the voice emerged, smooth yet chilling, amplified across the palace grounds. "You think this is merely about conquest?" the voice asked, dripping with mockery. "No, Empress Velathra. This war is personal, for your human ally more than anyone else." Eric froze mid-step, his heart pounding like a drum. He turned toward the source of the voice, his mind racing. Beside him, Velathra's grip tightened on her plasma blade, her eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about?" she demanded, her voice cutting through the eerie silence. The figure stepped forward, revealing glowing red eyes beneath its hood. It gestured lazily toward Eric. Ask him why he truly came here. Ask him what he's been hiding from you all along." Velathra whipped her head around to look at Eric, confusion and suspicion flickering across her face. "What does it mean? What aren't you telling me?" Eric opened his mouth to respond but found himself momentarily paralyzed. Memories long buried began surfacing. Fragments of conversations, documents, a mission briefing, pieces of a puzzle he hadn't realized existed until now clicked into place. His breath hitched as he met Velathra's gaze, guilt written plainly on his features. "I didn't know," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "I swear I didn't." "Explain," she said sharply, though there was an undercurrent of hurt in her tone. Taking a deep breath, Eric recounted everything. How his ship hadn't malfunctioned by chance. It had been sabotaged. How he'd been part of a covert operation sent to infiltrate Zytherion, tasked with gathering intelligence on weaknesses within the Empire. But when pressed for details about his orders, he faltered, shaking his head. "They never told me the full scope of the mission," he admitted. "They just said it was reconnaissance, that no harm would come to anyone. I thought I could find another way once I got here. I never intended for any of this to happen." Velathra stared at him, her emotions warring visibly on her face. Betrayal burned in her chest, but so did something else. Something deeper, rooted in the bond they'd built over weeks of laughter, shared secrets, and quiet moments together. She wanted to believe him, needed to believe him, yet doubt gnawed at her resolve. Before she could respond, the enemy leader laughed. A cold, hollow sound that echoed off the palace walls. "How touching," it sneered. "But don't be fooled, Empress. He may have changed his intentions, but his presence here still serves our purpose. You see, we knew exactly who he was, and we let him come." "What purpose?" Velathra snapped, her anger reigniting. "To destroy you," the figure replied simply. "To exploit your greatest weakness, your capacity for love. By allowing him to worm his way into your heart, we ensured your downfall. And now, thanks to Lord Saren's assistance, your empire will crumble before your very eyes." At the mention of Saren's name, Velathra's fury reached its peak. She turned to one of her guards. "Arrest Saren immediately," she commanded. "If he dares resist, kill him." As soldiers rushed to carry out her order, the figure raised a hand, signaling its forces to advance. "Enough talk. Let us finish this." The battle resumed with renewed ferocity, but this time, the stakes felt impossibly high. Eric fought alongside Velithra, their movements synchronized despite the weight of unanswered questions between them. Each blow struck against the enemy was a silent vow, a promise to protect her, to prove himself worthy of her trust. Yet even amidst the chaos, doubts lingered. As they battled side by side, Velithra couldn't shake the feeling that she was being torn in two. Part of her wanted to cling to the man she'd grown to care for, while another part screamed at her to distance herself, to focus solely on survival and the preservation of her people. Her internal conflict came to a head during a brief lull in the fighting. They sought refuge behind a shattered pillar, catching their breath as explosions rocked the air around them. "I need to know," Velithra said abruptly, turning to face him. Her violet eyes bore into his green ones, searching for truth. "Do you regret coming here? Do you regret meeting me?" Eric's response was immediate, his voice steady despite the turmoil surrounding them. "Never. Meeting you changed me, Velithra. For the first time in my life, I understand what it means to belong somewhere, to someone. If I could go back and undo the lies, I would. But I can't change the past. All I can do is fight for you now, and hope that someday you'll forgive me." Tears welled in her eyes, unshed but undeniable. She nodded once, curtly, before rising to rejoin the fray. Though her expression remained stoic, her actions spoke volumes. When an enemy soldier lunged at Eric moments later, she intercepted the attack without hesitation, her blade slicing cleanly through the assailant. "You saved me," Eric said, stunned. "You saved me first," she replied, her voice tinged with both bitterness and gratitude. "Let's settle the rest later." As the hours dragged on, the tide of the battle shifted unpredictably. Reinforcements arrived unexpectedly, led by Captain Lysara, who had uncovered evidence of Saren's betrayal and rallied loyalists to the Empress's cause. With fresh troops bolstering their ranks, Velithra and Eric managed to push back the invaders, driving them toward the outer edges of the palace grounds. But victory came at a cost. Just as the enemy leader prepared to retreat, it unleashed a devastating weapon, a pulsating orb of energy designed to destabilize the planet's core. Panic erupted among the defenders as alarms blared, warning of imminent collapse. "We need to shut it down," Velithra shouted, pointing to the device glowing ominously in the distance. "I'll do it," Eric volunteered instantly, stepping forward. "No," she countered firmly. "It's too dangerous. I'll go." "This isn't up for debate," he shot back, his tone leaving no room for argument. "You're the Empress. Your people need you alive. Let me handle this." For a moment, they locked gazes, neither willing to yield. Finally, Velithra relented, though not without condition. "Then I'm coming with you. We finish this together." Side by side, they sprinted toward the device, dodging blasts and debris as the ground quaked beneath their feet. Reaching the control panel, Eric quickly deciphered the alien symbols etched into its surface, his hands flying over the interface. But as he worked, a realization hit him, one final twist in the tangled web of his past. "This technology," he muttered, his brow furrowing. "It's human-made." Velithra froze, staring at him in disbelief. "What?" "It's from Earth," he confirmed grimly. "Whoever sent me here, they weren't just spying. They were planning to destroy Zytherian all along." The implications hit them both like a tidal wave. Before either could process further, the enemy leader appeared, blocking their escape route. Its crimson eyes gleamed with malice as it raised a weapon, aiming directly at Velithra. "You should have chosen wisely, human," it hissed at Eric. "But now you'll watch her die." In that split second, Eric made a decision. Without hesitation, he lunged in front of Velithra, taking the brunt of the blast meant for her. Pain seared through his body as he collapsed to the ground, clutching his side. "Eric!" Velithra cried, dropping to her knees beside him. Tears streamed down her face as she cradled his head in her lap. "No, please stay with me." He smiled weakly, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. "Guess this is where I prove it," he rasped. "I'd give anything for you, even my life." Her hands trembled as she activated her communicator. "Medics! Now!" But the enemy leader wasn't finished. It advanced slowly, savoring the moment. "Admirable sentiment," it mocked. But futile. Summoning every ounce of strength, Vailithra rose to her feet, her aura flaring with raw power. Her eyes blazed with determination as she faced the figure head-on. If you want him, you'll have to go through me. And with that, the final confrontation began. A clash of wills, of hearts, and of destinies intertwined. Whatever happened next would alter the course of their lives, and the fate of two worlds, forever. The battle reached its crescendo as Vailithra unleashed the full extent of her power, her form radiating with an otherworldly brilliance. The enemy leader faltered for the first time, taken aback by the sheer force of her resolve. Her strikes were precise and unrelenting, each blow fueled by love, anger, and a fierce determination to protect the man lying wounded at her feet. With one final, devastating attack, she shattered the leader's weapon and sent it sprawling backward. Before it could recover, Lysara and her loyal soldiers arrived, subduing the remaining invaders and securing the area. The pulsating orb of energy was successfully deactivated just moments before it could destabilize the planet's core, thanks to Eric's quick thinking and sacrifice. As the dust settled and the palace grounds fell silent, medics rushed to tend to Eric's injuries. Though gravely wounded, he clung to life, his eyes fluttering open as Vailithra knelt beside him once more. Tears streamed down her face as she held his hand tightly, refusing to let go. "You idiot," she whispered, half laughing through her sobs. "Why did you do that?" "Because I love you," he replied weakly, managing a small smile despite the pain. "And because I knew you'd kick my ass if I didn't." Her laughter was shaky but genuine, a sound that brought relief to everyone around them. Over the next few days, Eric underwent extensive medical treatment, aided by advanced Cytherian technology that ensured his recovery. Slowly but surely, he regained his strength, all while Vailithra stayed by his side, never leaving for more than a moment. In the aftermath of the invasion, Saren's betrayal was exposed to the entire empire. His treachery had cost countless lives, and when brought before the Empress, he showed no remorse, only bitterness. In a public trial, he was stripped of his titles and exiled to a remote penal colony, where he would spend the rest of his days reflecting on the consequences of his actions. With the threat neutralized and peace restored, Vailithra turned her attention to rebuilding. She worked tirelessly to heal the wounds inflicted upon her people, implementing reforms to strengthen alliances and prevent future conflicts. Yet amidst the challenges, there was joy, a lightness in her heart she hadn't felt in years. That light came from Eric. Their bond had deepened through the trials they faced together, forged not only by shared adversity, but also by forgiveness and trust. When he finally recovered fully, she invited him to join her in the royal gardens, the same place where their relationship had blossomed. "I've been thinking," she began, pacing slowly among the glowing flowers. "About us, about everything we've been through." Eric raised an eyebrow, leaning casually against a tree. "Oh? And what conclusion have you come to, Your Majesty?" She stopped in front of him, her expression soft yet serious. "I want you to stay, not as a guest or an advisor, but as my partner, as my equal." For a moment, he stared at her, stunned. Then a grin spread across his face. "Are you asking me to marry you? If you're willing to put up with me," she teased, though her eyes sparkled with hope. He stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "There's nothing I want more." Their wedding took place months later, a grand celebration that united not only two individuals but two worlds. Representatives from across the galaxy attended, marveling at the union of a human and an alien empress. The ceremony was held beneath the twin moons, with bioluminescent petals raining down like stars as they exchanged vows. "I promise to stand by your side," Eric said, his voice steady and filled with emotion. "Through every challenge, every triumph, and every ridiculous argument about who gets the last piece of dessert." Vailithra laughed, her luminous glow intensifying as she gazed into his eyes. "And I promise to lead with both my head and my heart, with you always by my side." As they sealed their vows with a kiss, cheers erupted from the crowd, echoing through the night sky. It was a moment of pure happiness, a testament to the power of love to overcome even the greatest obstacles. Years passed and their family grew. To everyone's delight, including their own, they welcomed not one child but several, each a unique blend of their parents' traits. Their eldest, a spirited girl named Leora, inherited her mother's regal bearing and sharp wit, while their youngest, a mischievous boy named Kalen, had his father's charm and knack for getting into trouble. Together, Valithra and Eric ruled Zytherion with wisdom and compassion, ushering in an era of unprecedented prosperity and unity. They traveled the galaxy, forging alliances and spreading messages of peace, always returning home to the warmth of their family and the beauty of their kingdom. Even in their quietest moments, sitting together on a balcony overlooking the city, they marveled at how far they'd come. From strangers thrust together by circumstance to partners bound by love, their journey had been anything but ordinary. "I still can't believe you fell for my terrible jokes," Eric said one evening, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Valithra rested her head against him, smiling softly. "And I still can't believe I admitted it so easily." They shared a laugh, the sound mingling with the gentle hum of the cosmos above. Life wasn't without its challenges, but they faced them together, just as they always had. And so, under the watchful gaze of the twin moons and surrounded by the love of their family, Valithra and Eric lived happily ever after, proving that even in a universe full of chaos, love could find a way to shine brightest of all.